said that one of her friends was in my class, but I wasn't sure if she meant currently or like in the past. So it must have been you. I'm painting.
Yeah, it was me. I just met with her yesterday and I was like, oh my gosh, that's my professor.
Yeah. Now it's funny because every time they'll introduce me to someone new, they'll say, she teaches at CSUB. It's like, it's kind of fun. So, all right. So a couple just business items to go over. I put in your midterm progress reports. If you feel like your grade is low or wrong, you can send me an email. If you feel like it's low, there is still time to turn things in. Most of the time, if you have a low score, it's because you just haven't turned something in. But remember, you can turn things in even if it's a little bit late. Secondly, don't forget to do your discussion board. I extended it a day because a lot of you hadn't done the discussion board from last week. Next Thursday is a holiday, so we will not have class. I will put up a bonus discussion board for you this week if you'd like to do it for extra points and to make up attendance points. So I'll have a bonus makeup discussion board this week that I will put up for the next 2 weeks since we won't have class next week. And you can do that to make up attendance points. I looked over your assignments for assignment project 5, 1, and 2. Those of you who have gotten it done have been doing a really good job. I'm sure some of you might be struggling with it, so we can talk about the technical aspect of that after class. And then I think I mentioned last week, I'm switching the course calendar around. So this week we're going to be talking about illustration. Now we usually jump in from logo design to page layout. And I would say page layout is pretty advanced. It's a harder skill. But I want to give you the opportunity to participate and do something that's really creative, that has an opportunity to be published and possibly work with the runner. So I switched the course weeks around. So we're not going to do page layout yet. And then I did some polls. I want to assess everybody on how they're feeling so far about class and the skill amount. So I feel like most of you conceptually, you're doing great. You understand these design skills, you find it interesting, and you're engaged with the course. But sometimes when it comes to actually implementing that on the technical aspect, that's where I feel most of you are struggling. You can answer in the polls if that's accurate or not. So what I always do is, as you've found out, that each week of this course is a broad concept in design. So there's certain things I want to make sure we get in and we lead up to a final project. Basically what I can do is cut out some topics to give us more time and to slow down leading into the final, because I feel like there might be a larger number of you this semester that are going to need a lot more help and time on that final project versus going into just doing more assignments and covering broader topics. So I wanted to get your feedback on that and assess a couple things. I'm going to start some polls. So first poll, I made it 1 to 10. So this is like on a 1 to 10 scale. I want to know how you feel about the software difficulty. Just this is purely technical. This isn't any of the concepts we talk about. How you feel about the technical aspect of this. This would be doing stuff in the Adobe programs and those things. So 1 being it's super easy for you, and then 10 it's really difficult. So I'm going to launch that poll first and answer honestly. If you're really struggling, Okay, one person hasn't answered. Give you one more second to get your opinion in. Okay. So it's about split, but I feel like far more of you said it was more difficult. So you'll see here, can you see the poll? I just hit share poll. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you, 5 to 1. And then if we count this one twice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of you on the more difficult scale. So that is helpful. Okay, I'm going to do another one. This is purely conceptual. Like this would be when we talk about color theory, when we talk about typography, when we talk about broad concepts. How do you feel it is to grasp those concepts? Do you feel like they're really abstract and hard for you to understand, or they're easy? I put easy, but really just like, you know, you're retaining it, you know it. It's harder to implement it in the software, but as far as learning and knowing about these things, you find it pretty easy and interesting. Okay, so that's about what I expected. Okay. And that poll, I'll share the results. So far, there weren't any answers in the very difficult section. So concept-wise, most of you are following along and feel like it's interesting and you're understanding it. So last one, and regardless of your answer, I just want your input, but I'm ultimately going to do what I think is best for the class as a whole. But I want to know if you would like to adapt the semester so we can cut out a few conceptual ideas and focus longer on certain topics, or we can stay on course, or maybe it doesn't matter to you. Would it matter if you knew what the things would be that we would cut out? I should have brought that up. Yeah, so basically we do a week on web design, which is really theoretical. We do not have time in this course to get into, yeah, like maybe a poll of the subjects. I will do that. I'll put that in. I'll do a Google survey next week. If you look at the course calendar, like if we pull that up and look at it together, see, some of you are probably waiting to answer. So
I feel like as long as you're flexible in like wanting to switch out weeks and what we learn and what we don't learn, then I feel like most of us would be comfortable slowing down. But I think that might be the hesitation for some people. But as long as you're going to be flexible, go for it. Sorry.
Oh, no, you can finish that thought. I'm sorry.
So as long as as I was going to say, just as long as we're flexible about it and we kind of a little bit get to pick and choose kind of what we're interested in as a class and as a whole, then I think that might be beneficial and fun.
Yeah, so what I can do is I can turn these modules on and you can go through and you can read about them, but maybe we don't have like an assignment on it. So I think that layout is really important. And in the past, we've collaborated with the runner to do layout, but illustration is going to be our focus of collaboration this time. So that's what we're going to go into this week. So like I was saying, I think layout is really important and useful, but it is on the difficult end for most students. So I was just thinking, okay, I'm bumping this around. We're coming up on something really hard. How do they feel about it? What do they want to learn? But if I look at the course calendar here, so we got a little taste of logo design, and then I'm switching to illustration. So in the past, we've gone immediately to layout, which would be putting images and type together in InDesign to do like magazine layout. So we'll still do that, and that's usually a pretty big project, but it is pretty difficult. And then I do digital design. So that's social media, web elements. This is, like I said, this is very conceptual. We cannot cover web design within the course of this semester in 1 week. It's too complex. But what I do go over is how you can use third-party web builders to build your websites by knowing what you already know, which is color theory, typography, sizing images, knowing how to curate and put things together. So I go over that. And the assignment that week is how to make animated GIFs, which I think is really fun. And it's not even really about web design, but if you use social media and you ever put stickers on things like in Instagram stories or TikToks or Reels, or even when you're commenting on some social media things, I think Discord lets you do it, you'll see that there's GIF animations, and you can actually make those and import them into an app called Giphy and start using them. If you ever use Instagram and you search Bakersfield, like I put icons in there that I see people use, and I always think it's funny when they pop up because I made it. So I cover how to make those in that week. It's not a necessary skill, but it is a fun skill to learn. So I can always turn on that module, and you can do it if you'd like to do it. And then that leads up to our final project, which because of spring break and because of this holiday, we don't spend as much time in class talking about the final project, but the final project is a full brand style guide that you focus on and you make for business, either of your own or a future business you would like to create, or a business that you already have some kind of connection with. I get a lot of students doing like family businesses and rebranding and doing things for that, but there's a lot of components to it. And I feel like you'll need a lot of support with developing those. So I will put some polls together. I like Danielle's recommendation of putting a poll with the subjects. And yeah, I'll get some of your feedback on that, and we'll figure out where everybody is at. But so far, just kind of reading the room here, I don't want to overwhelm you with sorry, I'm reading the poll. I don't want to overwhelm you with just like all of this content if you really haven't grasped the technical aspects of certain things, because it'll just be difficult to move forward. So when we get to our final project, if you can't really comfortably make these things in the program, you might find it a little bit difficult. So I'll do a poll and see what you want to cut out in terms of layout design, which is in InDesign. So that would be like doing a magazine layout. It's usually a big assignment. Students do really interesting work for that. We have collaborated with the runner on that in the past, but you also can just choose a celebrity and make a layout. Then there's the digital and social media week where we talk about web design and we make animated GIFs, and then it would be your final. So we're really like almost at the end here. The semester is going by really fast. So let me make a poll really quick. I'll just edit this poll. Oh, great. Okay. So between web, social media, and gift design. Or magazine layout. Let's see, did I miss anything? That's it, because then it's the final and that's branding. Can't cut out the final, sorry. Okay. Which are you most interested in between these two topics? And think about the project. The project for web is animated GIFs and magazine layout is InDesign, and you're actually making a magazine layout. Nobody's voting for Mag. Okay, there's one for magazine layout.
You said for the web social media, we'd be making a web page.
No, so I just cover web design theoretically, like, and I'll turn on, regardless of which one you prefer to do an assignment for. You know what, looking at this now, since it's really just 2 different weeks, I might let you all choose which assignment you want to do and cut out one assignment. So we'll go over the topics for both of these, but you can pick which assignment you want to do maybe, depending on your area of interest. But this is helpful. So thank you. Most of you said you're interested in web social media versus magazine layout. So layout in InDesign, I think, is really important. If you're going to go into any kind of graphic design field, you have to learn how to use InDesign for layout. It's just so much easier. But in this day and age, if you're not in the field of graphic design or plan on working for some kind of publication, the web and social media topic might be a little more interesting. And then making animated GIFs is just kind of a fun thing to know how to do. It's also something that a lot of businesses like to have. So if you know anybody, and people don't really know how to do it, it's very simple, but a lot of people don't really know how to do that skill. So I might let you pick. We'll see. We'll see how everything plays out coming into after our holiday and coming into that last week before spring break. So with that, thank you all for your feedback. I just want to make sure you're getting the most out of this and we're not just pushing forward with concepts and you're really overwhelmed and trying to catch up, because I do feel like most of you on the technical end are struggling, but conceptually you're into the topics. So that was really helpful. Okay, let's jump into illustration. I am going to screen share here. Make sure I have everything ready. Okay. So I have a PowerPoint and we'll look at the module for this week. So all you have to do this week is review the contents of the module. I will put up a discussion board that will be an extra credit attendance discussion board. And for the discussion board last week, if you have not done it, I extended it until Friday. And I do go through and read those. I don't usually comment back a lot, but I go through and read them. And a lot of you have really thoughtful and insightful things to say. So I appreciate that. Oh, what holiday? Yeah, it's Cesar Chavez Day next week. Okay. So you'll have an assignment and we'll go over that. And this week we're focusing on illustration and infographics. So basically how to communicate without words. So these two skills are all talking about broad concepts and conveying them through easily understandable images. The goal of an infographic or illustration is to distill information in order to quickly, efficiently, and visually convey a message to an intended audience. So I left this old lecture up. It's essentially the same PowerPoint with a few tweaks that I've made for this new assignment. And if you really would like to watch it, you can. It's an older lecture. It's from spring 2020. It's the first time I gave this assignment. And I just discussed some of the illustration stuff we'll go over in the PowerPoint. I thought I'd leave it up. I will tell you it's pretty dry. I say guys like every other word, which I'm trying to get out of my vocabulary. It's like one of my habits. I'm trying to substitute that word. So when I watch old videos and I hear, okay guys, I'm like, oh, I hate this video. So, but it's there for you to watch because some of the information is interesting if that is something you'd like to do. So jumping into the PowerPoint, I'll launch that here. Illustration for design. So an illustration can be defined as a visual explanation or interpretation of an idea, process, or concept. Illustrations are usually used in magazines, books, posters, videos, games, films, and animations. Illustrations are one component of the overall design. So sometimes you see a whole design and there's like little elements of illustration. And sometimes the illustration carries the whole weight of that information visually. So illustration is communication. Like design, an illustration is good if it gets across the idea to the right people at the right time. Illustration, as opposed to fine art, is meant to do a job, to clarify complex details or to convey the meaning or emotions of the accompanying text at a glance. Is the style of the illustration in the same mood as the article, book, or product? Serious versus lighthearted, scary versus funny, scientific versus emotional? Do the social cues in the art match the values of the target audience? Is it conservative or edgy or fun, depending on who it's supposed to talk to? So just like with everything, we have an audience and we're trying to communicate to them. And it's good and effective if it can do that. Can the target audience tell the meaning instantly? So when illustrating, focus on creating specific images that can independently communicate a cohesive message, developing illustrations using drawing, sketching, painting, and photographic skills. So I have examples on each of these. This was from an article. It's supposed to convey depression. And I think so a lot of times illustrations are really beautiful images all on their own, but then they have that deeper meaning. So this is showing the shadow and the looming quality of it. But it's still in a very interesting style. I don't get into style much. Style is going to depend on what you're capable of doing, but I want you to feel free to think outside the box. If you're not a good artist, don't feel like you have to work in a realistic style. Work in a style that works for you, and it can be very simple and still very effective. So tips for illustrating continued. Understand your subject. If the illustration will be accompanying an article, text, or story, make sure you have a thorough understanding of that text. If it is meant to convey information, know the main message. So this is, this middle image is for web security. Look how interesting, this graphic is as these numbers are falling out of the phone and this person's following along with the flashlight. Like, it's such an interesting way to say that. And it was accompanied by a larger article, but this graphic really gets your attention. And you'll see that with a lot of these graphics. They can be accompanying something or they can stand alone. Know your end spec. So what size will your illustration need to be? Horizontal, vertical, etc. Is it for print or web? Full color. Start in your sketchbook, experiment with several ideas, create fast, loose concepts. Sometimes these fast, loose concepts can be the illustration and it can lead you somewhere. It doesn't have to be super polished as long as it's conveying that message. So I always say start in your sketchbook, but for this assignment, it really is important to do a lot of concept sketches first. And then for your assignment, your end specs are very open, but I'll go over that. Oops, did I skip? There we go. Explore various shapes, simple, geometric, rounded, and sharpened edges. So here are 3 illustrations that are essentially icons of people, but they're drawn in 3 different ways. This one uses lines and simple shapes. This one has really sharp edges and bright colors. And then this one has a lot of gradient, or actually, oops. It doesn't actually have gradients, but it has a color palette that gives the illusion of shadow. So it has some dimension to it. So it's not flat. Does that make sense when I say these are flat and this one has dimension? Do you all see the difference between those? Yes, no?
Yeah, I do.
Wait, the one with dimension is the ones on the right, right?
Yeah, the one on the right. See how there's like shadows under the neck, and then it just like uses color in a way, like look at the open mouths, how it's a darker color in the back. So it's still made up of simple shapes sitting on top of each other, but you get that illusion that there's like depth and shape, like you could reach in and grab one of those people out of there, especially with the overlapping circles. But it's really this little shadow right here that does it. And then these are flat images, like this one on the left is just line art. And it doesn't really feel like they have like real like weight and dimension. So consider that when you're illustrating. Obviously, if you feel like you're not very good at drawing, don't worry about depth and perspective and things like that. Look how interesting this middle drawing is, and it's just consisted of flat shapes on top of each other. So what message are you clarifying? What is the emotional state? Think of how this can be conveyed through principles and elements of design. For example, calm equal balanced. So these illustrations, this one specifically uses symmetry going around, and this person is meditating. And this one also uses balance, the plants on either side. The illustrator very easily could have just put one plant, but it was balanced out to create that calming effect. And then this one uses color to really create that effect. You can see outside there's a lot of hustle and bustle. It's raining, the people are shuffling by, there's movement with those lines. But I personally feel like when you look at this overall, it kind of has a calm feeling. The isolated figure in the very front, the moody lighting, the blue tones. I think it feels a little sad and lonely, even though there's a lot of things happening outside the window. And then that darkness around it really frames that and closes it. So again, these are just principles and elements of design that you can utilize. So I think this was a slide for, oh, there it is. I had all of your faces. I was going to say, I think this is the movement slide. And it is. You can see here how lines, this one is also symmetrical, but those lines come in and meet, and how movements really created. All three of these actually feel like they're moving. This one, oops. This one really on the left really feels like those letters are moving across the page. You can see the motion in on the center image, and then the basketball player on the upper right looks like he's moving towards that hoop. They all have movement and they're dynamic and they don't feel static. So more tips. Consider the scene from a different angle. Who is the viewer? Is this perspective from the viewpoint of how a small child would see it, or is it from the perspective of a bird flying above? This trick will help you to understand which of the angles will be the most beneficial for the goal and the message of the illustration. So I think this one on the left is super interesting. It's like that skateboard, like almost as if a GoPro or like a fisheye lens were following the skateboarder, and it's an illustrated image, but you really get that illusion of something that we see all the time in video and photography. I love this image of that room straight overhead. It would be something that you would be rarely captured like photography wise, but you can illustrate it and all those little details within that illustration, and you really get a sense of space and like you're just a fly looking down on this person. And then the one on the right looking up, this person's looking up at the buildings and the birds flying by. So you can just see three different perspectives and how you can utilize that. You don't always have to do everything straight on like you're looking at a stage. You can think about how perspective will help you with that. So Color is also important, and we've already talked about color theory. Use color thoughtfully and intentionally. A thoughtfully selected color palette will help to strengthen the idea and message. It will set the appropriate mood and put accents on what is major. So think about that. Think about what colors you want to use, what you want to highlight. Putting a nice color palette together will make your design look more sophisticated, even if it's simple shapes. Like this illustration on the left doesn't have anything that's too difficult as far as technical skill, but it's got a really nice, thoughtful color palette that makes it feel harmonious and cohesive. I think this is also just an interesting way. There's a bunch of color used on here. And then even here, there's like a muted color palette, then with pops of red, and the bold red and black really make that image pop out, even with the other muted tones. So think about your color theory lecture. So, okay, now we're going to get into project 7. This was from 2020. I didn't take the slide out of the PowerPoint. I think it still applies to what you're going to do. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Your assignment is going to be to create your own illustration, or at the time it was infographic, but this semester I really want you to focus on illustration and what's happening in the world or your life today. So in 2020, what had just happened? COVID, we're all at home. This assignment literally came right after we all decided to go home, and it was just the craziest thing and new for all of us to be experiencing. So a lot of things that were going on were being illustrated. And the New Yorker, I left this in the module because the New Yorker is a great example of wonderful illustration. So if you want to go to that website, they always have a beautifully illustrated cover, and there are links to that in the module, and you can go look at lots of illustration from over the years. So this one is a simple wash your hands and see the germs falling away. And then this one is the coronavirus popping out of the cell phone. And she's very scared because everyone was scared in 2020 and not knowing what was going on. Okay, so these are just some examples of infographics that are illustrated. Like I mentioned, I want you to focus more on illustration, although you can definitely use type in this assignment to help convey your message. So these are all infographics, and they use a combination of words and pictures to just make that more interesting. I know a lot of these are mental health graphics, but that is probably one of the better ways to communicate a message. And I see these on social media all the time, and I'm always grabbing the ones that I really like. And they can have really personal messages specific to you, or, you know, just something that's nice. And like this one, what will you choose to focus on, is telling you what to water. So having this illustration makes this text feel more substantial. Otherwise, it would just kind of feel like a weird little message and not really give that same warm, fuzzy feeling that the illustrations bring to it. And this is quarantine. That's funny, quarantine, because remember I pulled these in 2020. So based on that lecture that ended here, these are some of the best assignments that I got from students. This is actually student work. So some of these were even featured in the runner. And this is a student who really liked to do that illustration technique we started off with at the beginning of the semester and got really good at it, and went on to do some really cool graphics for the runner. So the student was very advanced in his skill and worked hard to really learn Illustrator to do illustrations by using photo references. And it's just showing that like Zoom, cell phone distancing and all of that. And it was a really cool image. Let's see. When I have you across the screen, I don't think you can still see the full screen, right? I have to move you. So this was an image just showing like the conflicting feelings about staying home and lockdown. On one hand, it felt nice to have that rest and peace and bright side, but then it also felt really isolating and lonely. And again, very simple, but it's a really beautiful image. The color palette isn't just like primary color, so it feels very sophisticated, and then it has the symmetry. This student wasn't actually very advanced in her skill and worked very, very hard to get this done. But I think that she did a really good job, and it came out really good for her. She wanted to show the people that weren't taking the lockdown seriously and the people she saw partying and still treating it like it was just like nothing serious. So she put coronavirus heads on all of the people and they're playing drinking games. So I thought I liked this one because she did struggle technically in the course, but worked really hard to get this made. And I think that the results paid off for her. This one is just showing the overwhelm of the isolation and distance learning and just burnout altogether. And again, very simple image made of simple shapes. But the color palette feels really cohesive and it's just interesting to look at. So you may not even really be sure what's going on. You don't really see like a literal face being depicted, but you get it, right? You could see the desk, you see the screen, and you can make out those elements that we're also used to seeing like human figures. I thought this one was really nice. It just shows, again, the emotion and what the students were feeling at the time. And this one was featured in the runner and actually won an award as well. The student was graduating and had to get her diploma and graduate virtually. And this was also a very technically advanced student in my course. One of the students that comes in with already a lot of skills, but this image is really well done. And it's just such a lot of smart choices, like the way the masks are on the hand, the masks are on the face, the gloves are on the hands, and the diploma is being transferred from the computer screen. So again, this was a super advanced student, but I love what she had come up with, so I have to share it. This student also drew from simple shapes and outlined them. And again, look at the color palette, look at the symmetry. It's another really beautiful image. This one here shows the importance of healthcare workers. See the shadow behind? And there's a lot of detail in here. But again, think about what you want to convey. So many things in this image could be eliminated and you would still get the same message. So don't get intimidated by the technical skill here. Think of the intention and the meaning behind it. This student used a photograph and added like a digital texture to it. If you're going to start with a photograph, make sure, you're really transforming something. So this was like almost a digital collage. So the basketball player and the gate and the signs and the caution tape, all of these things had to be put together by that student to get this image. So that's why it passes for this assignment. But I don't want you to get too focused on using photography. I'd really like you to think about developing an illustration style and drawing something yourselves, whether you use Illustrator or an app on your tablet or something like that. But I still wanted to include this example because it is on the table for you if you feel like you could do it well. And the point of this, the student was a basketball player, and when that got shut down, they were just, what they felt was most important to them was taken away, and that's what this was trying to convey. So now I'm going to get into illustration for journalism. I pulled a lot of examples that I just found on Instagram that I liked. I've been like saving them for weeks now. So I really like this artist and her comic style. And it just shows you, the mental toll it would take on you when you go onto the internet. And that dynamic of like, very serious things and then ads and funny memes and everything being mixed up, just bombarding you at the same time. So think about how the words are used here. This illustration is done in grayscale, so maybe you don't want to use color in your illustration if you don't feel like it fits. But again, if you're using words, make sure that they have an intention and it's part of the overall picture. But this is a great example of how to use words in your illustration. I think these illustrations are really interesting as well. I forgot that this one had a bad word in it because I really liked it. So sorry, it's art, just, you know, roll past it. But I think these are really interesting. So if you want to go to this Instagram page, it's a bunch of posters for an art show, and each piece of this each piece of this has its own message, but together they all make up their own message. So I wanted you to see how simple your illustration could be as well. So look at these illustrations, like each one of these could be its own poster, and together they're making a really big impact. But if you break them down, you can really do something that's pretty simple as well. Like this one, when it rains, it pours. I think that cup is really cool. And then, oops, since I clicked over, we'll just move on. So I know I've already referenced NPR. NPR does these comic style news stories all the time, and they're done really well. And I really want you all to consider maybe a style like this too, especially if you'd like to be featured in the runner. And there's some topics that you can use to get started. This is just a story about how healthcare workers are turning to creative endeavors to find that comfort and solace. And it is, I believe it takes up all 10 slides. So if you're thinking in terms of Instagram, you have 10 images to work with. But I mean, for things like the runner, you can really, you have the choice. You can do something in one tile, but you could also do your project in multiple tiles depending on the story that you'd like to convey. So this one has, you know, each tile has a little bit more info. And then I really like how this one covers real people as well. So it tells you about real people and illustrates them. This one talks about an ICU nurse who likes to embroider, and it's been illustrated by showing that in an embroidery hoop. And then this is about a doctor who started a podcast. And look at the art. It's not complex. It's really simple. It's definitely that traditional comic book style with different cells and enclosed in squares and then word bubbles. So you have all of this available to you to work with. Basically, what you're doing here is storytelling. And then things are like, I love how this one also distinguishes like pieces of the story to little side notes. Like this one, I'm counting down the days when I'm hopefully joining an a cappella group. So that's how it ends with that little note. And then this is another graphic from NPR. It's just feeling awkward in your mask, how to stay cool. And it just breaks down some advice that came from an expert. Oops. But the illustrations really make that more interesting and fun. And you want to move through it and read it rather than just like one and then type and two. This is an infographic for the Student Podcast Challenge finalists. And I included this in here because it's that traditional United States graphic. We'll see a lot of graphics. Map graphics are very popular right now, especially with the war in Ukraine. You'll see a map in the New York Times Daily about the movement and what's going on there. But this one in particular, oops, I thought did it in a very fun, bold, colorful, interesting way. It's not that typical map. So I just wanted to give you another source of inspiration here. And then this is another article. Top researchers say it's time to rethink our entire approach to school. This was the first cell on Instagram. And you can see here the use of color. This student here looking out at the students playing and the students in a desk. And basically this is about the outcome of pre-K programs and how the study actually showed that, you know, too much intense learning early on is actually detrimental versus positive for kids. And it's all about promoting free play and play-based learning. So you'll see here the student at the desk is in the dark and the colors used to show the kids playing outside, looking happy and fun. And it uses the same graphic here. So this is taken and put here just to make another statement. And then, you know, it shows some quotes accompanying these. And then it ends with another colorful image. So it really drives the point home when you read and scroll through these all as a whole, that this very first image does. And if we're analyzing this for the sake of your assignment, that first image is perfect. That would be all you need to do. But then each of these images can be taken apart depending on how you design it. And you could add another accompanying graphic to it if you'd like to do that. So getting started, who is your character or characters? You'll need to know that. And when I say character, it could be you. It could be something personal on you. It can be a news story or a current event. And then your character would be who that is focused on and who you are highlighting. And then choose a theme. We'll look at the list from the runner soon and go over that together. And then consider your tone. You can do something light, serious, funny, informational, but know the tone you're trying to convey and really work within that when you pick colors, when you're developing your style. You can be serious and not have to be super realistic, or what would be another word? Like, you can be serious by just pairing it with the right colors and having the right vibe, whether or not you can draw something that looks like super realistic and serious. So you want to set the scene, which we also talked about setting the scene with perspective, color, all of those things that we talked about in the illustration tips. And then I really want you to organize your ideas and construct a general plan. So does anyone know what a storyboard is? Aren't there animation classes as well that you might have done a storyboard before? I'm going to stop sharing here. That's the end of the PowerPoint. It is on a link for you if you'd like to review it yourselves later. So you can download that PowerPoint if you want to go back and look at any of the examples more in detail. But a storyboard is essentially getting your story and drawing out your slides. So if anybody has done film or animation, you would do here's a quick storyboard of a balloon floating away. You know, so it's like you're showing what's happening in sequence, like this happens and this happens and this happens. So think about that as you're working on your illustrations. The reason this project usually comes later in the semester is because it is creatively open. So you would have more of a technical foundation to draw the way you want to draw, or use whatever program you feel like fits you. So again, there is no specific design program. You can draw in Illustrator. Most of the student assignments I showed you were done in Illustrator, and then there were a few tablet versions. Some students did do it by hand, but it didn't put it on the best of list, but you can also illustrate by hand if that is your preference. Let's go over the assignment. Any questions so far? All right, let me go over the assignment and then there will probably be some questions. So this assignment is very broad and offers you a lot of creative freedom. Please contact me for any assistance on execution of technical skills. I will be available. You have 2 weeks to do this because of the holiday, so you can spend all of that time really focusing on it and take the time to do something. Again, it doesn't have to be super complex. It just needs to convey an emotion or a message really clearly, and that will be successful. But if you have trouble just actually doing something, like say you want it to look this way and you're just struggling, think of your idea first, and then I can help you based on your technical skill how to get there. So if you think of what you want to do, I am happy to Zoom with you or email with you and get a goal and some direction and provide art direction to get you to the end goal. What I want to see from you and what your focus should be on is adapting concepts from your daily life or what is happening in the world and turning those into easily understandable illustrated graphics. Photography may only be used if it's adapted from form of illustration, collage, composite, reference, etc. Topics and ideas from the runner. So if you focus on these topics, there is a good chance that you might get featured in the runner. I don't know if any of you particularly care about that, but it's a really cool thing to get to do. And it really makes the issues that will be coming up much more interesting and really special. So I would like to encourage you all to focus on some of these. They're going to be covering Ukraine. So of course that is a big issue right now with what's happening in the world. And these are the things that they're going to be interviewing and focusing on. We do not have their content, but you can search the internet for similar content and create an illustration that maybe communicates your feelings about this or something that's going on. I didn't screen capture it for my PowerPoint, but, and I'm sorry I reference NPR a lot. It's just the best source that I found of this particular illustration style. And they just posted 2 psychologists tell how Ukrainian kids are reacting to war. So this is a very serious article, but it's done in the same comic illustration. Oops, that's my page. I clicked the wrong thing. And so go to NPR's Instagram page and look at some of their, you'll see they have all kinds of stories, but it's those illustrative ones that I think are really interesting. And when you see an illustration on their feed, it's either accompanying a link to an article. So that illustration is a broad concept linked to an article with much more detail, or it's a cell by cell like scroll of a topic, and that comic illustrated style is intended to make it easier for people to digest and read and understand. So this is a list of the Ukraine coverage that the runner will be doing, so you can focus on one of these. And I know some of them are very specific. So interviewing international student athletes from Eastern Europe and how the invasion is impacting their community and families back home. You may not have access to that. If you do know somebody, or you happen to know someone, you can, focus on something like that. But you can think about this in a broader conceptual way. Like think about all of those COVID examples that I showed from the semester of 2020. You really can digest this and distill this in an interesting illustrative way without having that specific article to go along with it. Or search your favorite news source and you can illustrate something based on a news story like that. Now, they're also going to be doing a student needs coverage, and this might hit home with more of you because you are students. So they're going to be talking about affordable housing and housing insecurity, food insecurity at CSUB, scholarships and financial aid, mental health resources. You'll see so many of those illustrations that I shared from my PowerPoint are mental health related topics because it's a really good way to communicate something super complex. Sometimes, there's a lot of words and resources and things like that, but just having an illustration can help people understand and connect to something. And you're either somebody who takes mental health really seriously or struggles on your own. And then there's like the whole world of people that just don't get it. So maybe that illustration will help them connect and understand something that someone else is going through. Let's see. I'm not sure, is this center, do you say it like MAGEC or do you say magic? Does someone know? Anyway, these are very campus specific topics. And then equity gaps, grad rates, ethnicity, disabilities, etc. So anything basically that affects you as students, you can cover in this in the students' needs coverage. So you could get something published in the runner. We'll share it with them. You can focus inward and think, this is what's affecting me. Like I know some of you are student athletes, so you could do like a multi-graphic day in the life of a student athlete, or just anything like that that you'd like to do. You all come from your own individual unique perspective. So if you want to share something really personal, you can, and you can do it in one, or you can do it in multiple. Software is designer's choice. Illustrator, Photoshop, Procreate, or even by hand, but you must upload a digital file. Okay, so there's a really good book. Let me find him on Instagram. I'm gonna blank on the name. There's a book called Steal Like an Artist. Let me Google it. If you didn't see the chat, Danielle asked, what would you say is your best way to not copy or be too similar to something already out there? I know the wheel exists for a reason, but sometimes you look up stuff and get subconsciously inspired. That happens all the time. That is like the typical artist problem. So before I unscreen share, size is also your choice, but make sure it's high enough resolution that you can submit it to print. If you do something super fantastic and you do it like 10 by 10 pixels, which you wouldn't be able to draw that small, but you know what I mean? And then the runner is like, this is amazing, we want to feature it. You're going to be really disappointed that you drew it at such a low resolution. So pay attention to your resolution, print resolution and screen resolution, 150 or higher. Or if you're going to do screen resolution, which is 72, make sure it's at least over 1,000 pixels wide. You can work on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper if that makes you feel better, just to know what that is. But a square is usually good. The way social media works and the way layout works, a square will be able to fit most places. So size and style and software is up to you. So jumping out of this here, let me Google. There's a really good book called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. I couldn't think of that name. Basically, this is a problem that a lot of people have. But one of the things that we do, if you've taken a lot of art classes or you're in like even just a basic painting class. When I took painting in college, one of our assignments was to copy a master painting, because when you copy something, those elements and that technique and skill get in your head, and then you can go on and move forward and create. I like to see lots of content. I just showed you a ton of illustration content. So you're probably now overwhelmed by different styles and color palettes and everything in between. So when you actually go to work, the best way to not copy something is after you absorb it, don't look at it and start sketching. And then go back and really analyze. So if you want to copy a certain style, that's perfectly fine. You can copy something stylistically, but maybe not topic-wise. Best way to have original content is to do something like pick a topic that doesn't have an illustration associated with it, especially if you do something really personal. If you do something about you as a student, no one else can copy that because it's about you, and then you can decide what style you want to do it in. So if that is a concern for you and something that you struggle with after you see ideas to just want to copy those ideas, you should check out that book, Steal Like an Artist. Let me post a link to it, not an Amazon link. Here's the website for the author. I don't like Amazon. I try not to use it. Okay, so there's a link to that book if any of you want to check it out. I really like this author. and all of his books are like pieces of art itself. But I think some of you might find that helpful. Anybody else have questions? Does anyone have an idea they'd like to, bounce off of us? We're all here to help you. Anybody really overwhelmed? NFTs. If I had $1 for every person that told me I need to sell NFTs, I have researched it. It's incredibly overwhelming. The problem with things like crypto and NFTs still, I've heard like environmental concerns. It's just that is a big can of worms that I am not prepared to speak on intelligently, although I'm constantly being told to get into NFTs, and I've been trying to research it. And I just listened to a podcast that breaks it down into like more easy to understand things. I can try to speak better on it next time. But essentially, I make so much digital art, that's why people are always telling me to do this. I have a couple link resources, but like I said, I just feel like it's one of those things that I'm unprepared to speak on, but I will gather all of my links and try to have an opinion. I'm still in the very like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. I don't have a strong personal opinion yet because it's like, I have heard both. So I am on the fence. Like I've heard the negative and the positive, and I just feel like it's overwhelming for me. But again, I have people tell me like so often that this is something I should do. And I just think like, oh my gosh, has anyone heard Keanu Reeves talk about NFTs? I really liked his quote on it. And I'm like, oh, I'm just Keanu Reeves at heart. So maybe that's why I haven't been able to jump into it. But he basically says something like art should be experienced, not sold and commodified. Although I'm a commercial artist, so I do want to sell my art because that is how I sustain myself. But it's just such a hard concept to grasp, and it's overwhelming. And are you doing it right? But there's like, just like with web design, there are a lot of third-party ways to get into this, where you can upload things to other channels and they take a piece off, but it's an easier step into it. So we can talk about that more next time, but it's complicated. But I like that topic. It's very applicable to what we're talking about right now with digital art in general. So let's see. I did want to tell you all that your assignments were good, and I've looked at everyone's assignment for 5, but there weren't a lot of people that had it turned in yet. So I didn't want to go over like a critique until there were more. So I'm sure some of you might still have questions with that. And then let me screen share here again. If we go in the Wayback Machine, you probably all put this out of sight, out of mind, but I pulled a couple examples from the type and color assignment that I thought were really good. So I just have 3 up right now. But Melissa, I like the way you did the cloud. If some of you, you uploaded yours in 2 pages. I didn't pull up the first page. If some of you lost points on this, it's probably because if it's under assignment specs, your Photoshop part didn't like layer in some way, and it didn't feel like it was intertwined enough. But I thought these clouds looked really nice. Thought Jacob's here was really fun and interesting. I like the knife tee. And then the color palette really felt like it fit well. So I just wanted to show you some of these in case you didn't have the opportunity to look at them because you don't see everyone's work if we don't do a critique and share. And then I thought this was also really fun, just that little peek over the palm tree here, but it fits really nice. And the colors here really are mimicked in this one as well. Same with Jacob's, the colors here are repeated in like the dimension of the photo. And again, I forgot to pull up Melissa's first page, but I really liked this Photoshop work that was done. So I just wanted to share some of those with you so you can see what other people are doing. I didn't pull up the 5 and the 2 parts of it, but now is question and answer time. So if you have questions still about assignment 5, I'm here for you. And if you would like to talk about your illustration assignment that's coming up, remember you have 2 weeks and you will have a discussion board for attendance makeup. So that's it for today.
So there is no class next Thursday then?
No, it's Cesar Chavez Day.
Okay, okay.
I mean, if some of you want to meet because you just want to talk about design stuff, or if you have questions, I can still be available at 5:30 and we can just do like office hours because I'm free to do that, but it's not a mandatory class session. Does anyone want just office hours on Thursday? Or you can message me or email me if you think you do.
I'll probably email you because I never have questions about an assignment right away. It's always when I'm actually sitting down doing it, the questions arise. So I can't just ask you right away. So I'll probably roll in by Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, and I am fine if you are sitting down doing your assignment and you have a question, you can email me right then or just make a list of your questions. That's fine too. But we can always Zoom and screen share to go over questions. Yeah, and you can use Discord. So does anybody have ideas for your illustration assignment yet? Oh, how do you find the Discord? Is Corey available to answer that? Okay. Danielle could probably answer that too. I forgot. Oh, there's the link.
Thank you.
I'm really bad about keeping up on it. So it's more like a peer-to-peer thing, but I'll try to get on, especially since there's so much time in between class. So I hope that everyone's inspired and gets excited about this assignment, the illustration assignment, and not overwhelmed. So yeah, I'll just be here for questions. That's the end of class. And stick around if you have specific questions you want to ask. And make sure you check in on Canvas. I'll post announcements with discussion board links. I submitted your midterm grading. So if you have questions about that, email me. I will be available over the course of these next 2 weeks, even though we don't have a traditional class session on Thursday. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
I'm just gonna share a screen real quick because
Yeah.
I feel like that'll be the best way. So I was struggling with the previous assignment, which is why I hadn't started this assignment that's due today because I was doing this anyhow. I was struggling for whatever reason with threshold, so I ended up like messing with that for quite some time, and then eventually just like quitting and realizing like, okay, I can just posterize.
Mm-hmm.
And then for whatever reason, I don't know why it wouldn't let me save, like, I could only save it as a JPEG as a copy for some reason. Like, I don't know if it's like a size issue or what, but yeah, I was never able to get it over to.
Oh, go up to image and then mode. No, it's RGB.
And this is after I've like altered it and everything, but I guess I had trouble even with the original image. And then I was like, I don't know why.
Most of the time when I can't save it in a certain file format, it's the color. Like if you have I
was going to show you what options it does give me
Yeah.
to see if any of those actually like work, but yeah, I think it's only these.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So this is a new feature that InDesign has since it upgraded. You have to save as a copy. So if you just hit over, save, oops. You can do it within that too.
Well, okay, so I did save as a copy as well. And then whenever I went to InDesign, it said like, I could only find it when I clicked on all documents, but when I hit all readable documents, it basically was like, let's see, like when I go to all, it lets me select them, but whenever I do, yeah, all readable documents, it doesn't let me use those anymore, I guess. I know whenever you posted that poll, I was like, oh my goodness. I was just coming in class today thinking like, I think I need to be in an even more beginner like thing, because I feel like just the program alone, like I could probably spend a whole course just trying to understand, you know, everything. I'm not good at
There's a lot of file navigation and just stuff like that that goes into this that I don't really even think about because I'm just like using a computer all the time. But it's like just even like saving this and then being able to find it and put it in somewhere else can be a challenge. So what happens if you make yourself like, are you on a Mac?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
So,
I just commented saying that there was an update with the OS. So it's like that I just rarely realize that. And I'm thinking that's why I had issues saving, because I'm like, I haven't gotten this update. So I'm thinking that's probably why I've had issues saving. So I'm gonna do that right now. And I don't know if you've done that yet, Ashley, if you've like updated your OS.
Okay. Yeah, I kept like every time I kept trying to like search things online, I felt like there was similar errors of people struggling with like things that it had to do with their whatever device they were using. And I think that's why I struggle so much too, is because I'm not really good.
I haven't been doing like enough of the troubleshooting yet, which is like, I feel like there should be just a separate class just for troubleshooting.
Yeah, I think I need like an intro to like how to use your computer like an adult. I don't know. Because I'm like
so one thing that'll help you, just make a folder on your desktop and call it like COM3170. And then go back to Photoshop and save as a copy and put your JPEG in there.
Okay, cool.
You want to do it? You want to walk through it? I'll walk through it with you if you want to.
Let's do it. I'm always worried that like something weird is going to be on my computer when I'm sharing the screen, but
I am too, because I'm the instructor.
Oh, I can only imagine. Like, I've always just wondered if like a weird file name or like a photo will pop up, like that it obviously isn't gonna like just censor it for us. So okay, bear with me. Let's see.
I can always cut this part. Like it's still recording, but I'll cut it out.
Oh yeah. No, it should be fine. I'm just paranoid.
Okay, so go to your desktop. So see the desktop over under on the left. Oh, and so you can stay in this screen, in this dialog box, and then click on under see iCloud way at the left.
Yes.
And then see desktop.
Yes.
Click on that. And then click new folder. Oh, your iCloud storage is full. So that's not your desktop, is it?
Oh no, you're right. And see, I think that's why I get confused too. I never really.
You don't have your. Okay, cancel
'Cause,
that.
like you could be saving it on your actual computer, or is there not enough room on that either? That's why you're using your iCloud.
I should have enough room. That's why I purposely bought like a computer that had
That
storage.
might be part of your problem, is that it's automatically going to iCloud instead of just saving it on your hard drive. That might make it a lot easier. So go to your hard drive or your desktop.
Let's see, let me move all this crap. Yeah, never mind the fact that I tried to do that assignment in Adobe Illustrator for like 20 minutes and then realized it was in Photoshop. I'm like,
You're not the first one to do that. Don't worry.
I was like, why is the word image not showing up there? Like, I genuinely thought like I had the wrong, I don't know. Okay, so
just go to File, New, Folder, and just name it whatever.
it's 32.
3170 is the class, but I mean, you can name it whatever you can find.
Okay.
And then let's see.
So I don't know how you save your stuff, Jennifer or Cordova, or sorry, whatever. But like I underneath, where is it? Let me see if I can like minimize this, because it's like I just like have another underneath my favorites. I have like projects, and then I save pretty much everything under there, and like I'll do like the year. I'll make like different folders for different years, and then in that year I'll be like, all right, CSUB, and then divide that into the classes, and then I'll save in there. That way it's not all super mixed up. So I don't know how you're saving,
I'll show
Ashley,
you.
but it's like that way
Sorry.
you can like have that a little bit, like, because that's helped me out a lot, because it's like I saw how you were saving stuff in downloads, and I just like was losing stuff constantly doing it that way, or like forgetting what I named stuff. And
yeah, I find that I like don't really understand what I'm saving stuff to, and I think I really got a MacBook thinking that like this is my first MacBook, and I'm just not used to like
You'll get the hang of it. Honestly, I can't help PC users. They're out of luck. I don't know how to use it.
I like think it's applicable to both. So it's like whatever, like however you do your filing system, you can use it for there.
Like my desktop's out of control right now, but we save everything here on a Dropbox server. So we have our main server, and it's all clients alphabetized. So everything is in a folder, and it's a server that's linked. This is actually the hard drive right here. Here's my hard drive. And then this is our studio server with our client list and everything like that. Anytime I'm working on a project, I drag it over here to the side so that when I'm saving, I just can click on like that particular project folder and save it really easy. So like you can drag anything that you want. If you double click on that folder you just made, it'll open up. So I'll click on a folder on my desktop to show you my messy desktop. It's very embarrassing. So CSUB class. And I want, like, I have a folder within that folder called week 14, and I want it over here. And you can drag it over here. So then when you go to Photoshop, we'll just open this one, and I go File, Save As. See here, because it's a PNG, I get a little bit more, but to save a copy, then it'll give you JPEG. And that's a weird thing I just noticed with the update of Photoshop, is that maybe it's so people don't save over things anymore, but unless you save as a copy, you don't get all the options. But say I want this to go into week 14, now it's just here on the side, and I can click on that and save it here. And then when I go into InDesign, and I start a new document and I want to place something, I can go to week 14 and then I can pull it out easier. So Danielle was saying she does the same thing with her favorites, but I pull everything over here to the side. So if you make, I can walk you through how to do that. I'll stop sharing.
I'll share real quick again because I attempted to do, well, I saved it again as a copy in Photoshop in that folder. And then I went back over here and I don't know, maybe it's like, I'm just gonna start a new file just in case. Just in case. Okay. So wait, is this right? This size right here?
Yeah, that's 8.5 by 11, even though it's giving it to you in picas. You can just change the units over on the side if you want, and it'll change it to inches.
Oh, I didn't even save it. Oops. I know. And then I'm like, why does it already pull up the background of the thing I was working on last, even though I pressed a new document? I'm like, this is okay. Open.
Okay, that's your first mistake. You're placing it. You're not opening it.
Oh, okay. I know. I don't understand how that happened to me in Photoshop too, where it was pulling up like
that. So go to file and then hit place, not open. So if you hit open, it's looking for InDesign files because you're in InDesign. If you hit place, it'll pull, it's letting you place all those images into InDesign.
Aha. Wait, and that's under file?
Yeah, keep going down. Right there.
Yay.
So
Yep.
because you're on a Mac, a lot of times too, I don't navigate through my folders. I just open up like a Finder window and I drag it in. And that's really easy to do too.
That's what I was kind of thinking, like you don't need to even save it at that point. You could just drag it over.
Yeah. And then if you watch
like,
the
are you working on only one screen, Ashley?
Yeah.
Or are you working on multiple screens, Jennifer?
No, I just work on one.
Okay, I was asking that because I feel like the dragging is like harder for me
If you
to
have
do on like
multiple.
on a smaller screen.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
because it's like I have to make everything all smaller to like drag it to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just always hit Finder and bring my Finder back up like to the front. I know like my business partner has his system set up with like like you can do different desktops for different things. I just get irritated by like, what's it called? There's got a name. I remember when it came out and everyone's like, oh, you got to set up your blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is annoying. I'm just working on this computer the way it is. But you can even put like all of your Adobe programs into one set. Gosh, what's it called? Let me go to system preferences.
I know. I was wondering if you could just like, can you just drag it down to the toolbar and drop it there where it's like how my screen has
You could drag your folder. You could drag your COM3170 folder down there and then you could click on it. I think it's different displays. What's it called?
I know. Isn't there probably even a way with like MacBook to have two separate, I don't know, screens where you don't have to constantly be like.
What it does is it like slide. So it's like if you have your screen set up to open these programs, like in this way, and then you have two of those, it like slides in between them. I find it really irritating, but some people really like it. I'll ask my business partner about it and post on how you do it. But I'm just like, I just like it to all be here where I can see everything. But if you have your folder pulled off into the side and you just can drag and drop things over, or if you just have a folder designated for this, it'll make it much easier. But your biggest mistake was that you were trying to open the files in InDesign and you should have been placing them. So that'll help a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, it sucks because I was just getting like, I feel like I'll get hung up on like one minor thing and I'll spend so much time on it. And then I just feel like defeated to where I'm like,
That's
what
I
reach out for help or whatever. And I'm just like embarrassed that I can't even do the simplest functions on there. But
I'm not like
It's easy.
feeling as embarrassed anymore because I'm like, I just can't afford to be spending that much time on like one thing anymore.
Yeah,
And
I
And
so
that's
you
what
shouldn't
the
be,
Discord thing. And I know that like I know you're more willing to like ask for it. And that's why I came today because I was like, I didn't realize that I need to update my Mac. So I'm thinking that's the issue, but I've been having issues saving. So that's why I was like, oh, let me like see if some of your stuff is like what my thing is.
right.
Because like I was like, I had to like clean up this whole week like my storage. Like so that's why I'm like how I
Yeah.
was like filing and saving stuff because I'm like, oh crap, I don't know where this is. And I'm just getting stressed out trying to find it. And then I just like closed it
Right.
because I couldn't like I'm like, I need to change this whole thing. Like
see, and
today's
this is like the pros and cons of being virtual. When we're all in a lab and you were doing that, I would be walking over in a second and being like, oh, this is what you're doing wrong. But it's that one tiny step that hung you up. And it was just a matter of doing like open versus place, you
Right.
know? And
And
then that throws you off and you can't figure it out. And you shouldn't be embarrassed by that. Like if you're not using these programs all the time, of course, that seems like the same thing. It's a very minor difference that can hang you up.
I know like Warner, he like prefers you to like look up stuff at least first
I
to show like
try.
you did initiative. Like
But I
that you
understand
tried.
too, sometimes it's like, what do you even Google? Like you
I was
don't
just
have the
gonna
skill set to know
But
what
there's
to
times
Google.
where I'm like,
It's
I
so
didn't
hard
it
to
took me like
find
an
that.
hour to figure out the word to
Yes.
that I was supposed to
Yes.
Yeah, where it's like, honestly, nothing you should be doing should be this complicated. And if it feels overwhelmingly complicated, you should just stop and message me because it shouldn't be that hard. So that's what I'm trying to always get across. And I can just tell, and I don't mean this as a negative or a slight, but this class is definitely the most like the newest as far as these programs. And I can tell you're all struggling. So that's why I was kind of assessing everybody today, because that technical aspect is really hard and can hinder everything else if you can't like get over that like learning curve.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. And I'm kind of glad that everyone's on the same page though, because that made it a lot easier for everyone to agree about.
It makes it easier for me to know what to do instead of like if I don't have anyone this class. There are some people that are doing really well and can produce really good work, but usually I have like one or two, like they've been taking graphic design since high school and they're in this class and it's like they're producing like great stuff and then everyone else is trying to learn how to open their document. So I don't really have like that standout that kind of like throws the whole curve off this semester. So I feel like we can all be comfortable slowing down and just kind of moving along a little bit better.
It's
so.
like I'm familiar with a lot of the programs, but like I forgot a lot with like Mac and stuff. And then like I'm like, oh, and then I had to like update and like
Yeah.
redo like how I was saving stuff, especially because of last semester using Unreal and stuff. I just like it like shut down my computer a whole bunch. Like
These
in the
programs
middle
are
of like
massive. They take a lot of memory.
yeah, and it was just like, oh, I was losing files and I'm like, I just like got so stressed out and I'm like, I'm losing so many different things. So I'm trying to like, I had to like devote like a lot of time this semester just to like learning how to like whether the functions of the computer, not the programs of
Yeah.
that we're using, like those are fine. I can like figure out like where the selection tool and razor and all that type of stuff is. It's more the like actual inside the computer.
Can I open this program?
Right.
And then it's the wheel spins. Yeah. So that's the hardest part about being virtual is that everyone's on a different system. Your computer is what you have. You're trying to work the best with what you've got. We're not in a lab just with everyone at an even playing field, even though when we were in a lab, students would bring in their laptops because they just liked using them better. But it's just easier in real time to walk over and be like, oh, you're doing this wrong, which now it's a little more troubleshooting. So the good thing about this week is that it is creatively open. So you don't have to use any one particular program. And you can do it by hand if you would like to.
I just wanted to check in because like, well, because it's like, I know I haven't turned in stuff. It's because I like couldn't find stuff. So I was like, I got it done. I'll just go back and look for it later. And then that's what I've been, so it's like, I need to like, just,
I
like,
would
I need
say
to get that.
with the both of you, if you feel like your grades are low, it's just because you have to get some things turned in. It's not because you're not participating or you're not like, basically, I'll tell you, like, even some of the students that you might think are like, oh, they're not very good. They'll have good grades because it's just about getting stuff turned in, and you don't, I'm pretty nice about about the grades. So you have plenty of time, just don't get too far behind. I did tell one student who was also really behind that generally, if there's one assignment that you just can't get over that hump to do, you can still pass. It just depends on how high of a score you want, but you could cut out one assignment altogether and just not do it and still pass. But you have to assess how high your other grades are and kind of make that call yourself.
I feel like, okay, one last time I'm gonna share screen. I feel like I'm so close to, like, obviously you helped me get through that one thing. And then did you say to turn in all 3 simplified images and original images, right?
So you do original and simplified on 3 different pages, and then tile your favorite one in 4 colors.
Okay.
If you watch the very end of, I can't remember if it was last class session or the session before, I think it's Melissa, how to place them, or maybe it was Brianna. I walked someone through how to do the InDesign part because I forgot to tell you all during class. So I'll look at the videos and I can post that link or email you that link, but it's at the very end of the class session.
Okay. I just wanted to show you, I mean, we don't even really have to go through it. Oh wait, I guess that would require me finding it. I guess like I got pretty much, I did that one assignment with the word and the day of the week, but I think I was struggling with the layer masking, but then I never see, that's the issue of getting behind, is when obviously you're like explaining how to do it, then I'm like still confused because I wasn't so I think I got confused at like the layer masking, but I think you said everyone kind of had gotten slipped up at that point, so I'll just rewatch.
You can rewatch, but if you want to open it up or if you want me to go over later, I can go over it right now. I mean, this is your class time, so if you want to go over it, we can.
I can't remember if
You don't have to learn things on video just because it's virtual.
I'm trying to wonder if where I saved it or if I just ended up being like.
I can also just show you, I can pull up something on my computer and show you what people usually mess up on, if that's helpful.
Yeah, and then that will give me time to actually find where I saved that one too, just in case.
Let me find a good image.
Is that where you're opening up your or Adobe apps, Ashley? Because they're saved in your like Finder also.
Saved in what?
In your Finder.
Oh, so I could just search that?
Yeah, you can like just go on the top and like if Adobe Illustrator, like you can just type that in the spotlight search. So you don't have to like constantly be opening up the Creative Cloud. Like you can do your updates through there, but you don't need to be. Oh my God, can you talk, Jennifer? Because my voice is so
I know, I can tell. I'm so sorry.
I just pulled one up and it happened. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I actually never open Creative Cloud unless I need to get to something, but most of my programs, you can see mine are always down at my dock because they're in your applications. So you can
like open up your like your screen, share your screen again.
I didn't see where she had. Do you go to Creative Cloud every time to open them?
Oh, I honestly, I went there this time because I thought that I had saved that document in Creative Cloud, but then she had just, so this is the image before I transferred it over to the other image, but yeah, typically I just file open, but that time I, like I said, you guys, I'm so bad at this.
No, you're fine. It gives me ideas on what to cover, because these are the gaps that I just fill in automatically.
Yes. Even when I
And-
like watch the video, I'm like, okay, she just did something and I don't know how she like, I think that's when I tried to do the like threshold thing, you were like, and then just delete that white background, but I like didn't know what you meant by how like to actually
Oh, I just hit
delete.
probably hit enter or delete on my keyboard. I probably hit a button on the keyboard. When you can't figure out what I'm doing, it's usually a key command or I hit something and I forget to fill in those gaps because it's just automatic. But
For sure.
let me screen share and just show you some layer masking really quick.
Sure, yeah, let me exit out of this. Oh, just kidding.
Okay, I just pulled up this picture because I had it on my desktop. So if you, like in this assignment, you're supposed to type something and then cover part of it. So you would copy that type in from your logo type, probably from Illustrator,
Right.
but it doesn't really matter. So just let's say I want her head to just cover this part of the image a little bit. There's a lot of different ways to mask things. Like Photoshop has this really cool tool where it just selects objects for you. The number one thing people do wrong is they don't pay attention in Photoshop to what layer they're on. In Photoshop, you have to actually click and be on the layer that you want to work on. So if I want to add a layer mask to this layer, see, I have the object select tool selected right now. This, I can just swipe generally over a big image and it automatically picks it up for me. And then I can just hit this mask down at the bottom. So here's the mask, and now it has a layer mask on it.
Okay.
So what you would probably want to do is copy your image, whatever your image is, and pull one over to the top of your text so that you still have that background. And then if I add a layer mask to this without like specifically selecting it, when it's white, that means it shows up. When it's black, that means you're hiding it. So you can take your paint bucket over here and see how it turns to black when I'm actually clicked on the mask. So you have to make sure too. Oh, the layers palette is really important in Photoshop. What you are clicked on and what is highlighted is what you're working in. So if I'm clicked on here, this is me on the background. This is me on the text image. I have this image selected, but see how it's grabbing the picture? Here it's grabbing the mask. And one reason I know that is because when you're on a layer mask, your colors, you have two choices. You have black and white. When you're clicked on this layer, you can actually use multiple colors. So that's a quick, easy trick to know if you're clicked on the layer mask or not. So
Okay.
I clicked on the layer mask and I fill it in with black and it went away. And then if I use the paintbrush, I either paint with white or black to get it to hide or show. So if I want this to show back up and cover that O, I just click the X button, switches between black and white, but you can also click right here. And then I can just paint over it with white.
Oh.
And then you can just keep going back and forth till you like it the way you want it. You could also duplicate this layer and you can just drag it down to the plus and it makes a copy. Or you can right click on it and duplicate it. There's a lot of different ways to do stuff. But if I grab this and I use like the object selection, an object selection automatically detects the person. And then I hit layer mask. I could also do it like that. So
Oh,
it either
That's
looks
like
that.
kind of an issue I'll like have is like sometimes I don't know if Ashley has this, like sometimes I'll look up how to do something, and since there's so many different ways to do the same thing,
Mhm.
I'll like forget how I'd learned it, and then when I'm looking it up it's a different way and I'm like, wait, so which one am I supposed to remember?
The one
And
that's
it's like,
easiest,
I mean, I know it's
honestly,
just like the more you're using it, the more you get like
yeah.
better at like remembering all the different ways. But
We
like,
even do that here where we'll watch each other. I'm like, why are you doing it like that? And then it's like, well, how do you do it? And it's like, why do you do it like that? I'm like, because that's how I do it. Like Mike, my business partner, I always joke, like he edits images in Photoshop full destruction mode. Like he doesn't use layer masks at all. And I finally got him to change his ways because I'm like, you can't go back. If you don't use layer masks, you have to keep saving as like it's just such destructive editing where masking, you always have that base to move back and forth instead of like undo, 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 and you lose every step in between. So, but with anything like setting type, just there's like so many different ways to do stuff. And the best way is the way that works for you and gets the end result that you want. So
I think honestly, the only error I was coming up with was I might not have clicked on the actual
mask.
mask.
Yeah, so that's super important for Photoshop. You have to make sure you're on the layer and that you're clicked on the mask to change the mask. Because otherwise, like, so this is mask. See how this is all black with just that little bit of white? If I'm clicked here and I've got my, let's say it still lets me choose black and white over here, but I don't realize I'm not on the mask and I'm just coloring over that layer, but I can't see it until I get to this part. See how then it showed up? So if I were to actually delete this mask, see, that's all there.
Oh, okay.
I just couldn't see it because I was, drawing behind the layer mask.
Okay.
So if I was doing that and I'm like, why isn't this showing up? That's my first clue. Oh, I'm not on the layer mask. Because if I'm on the mask and I do that, that actually doesn't help because you can't see. So let me turn off the base layer. If I'm on the layer mask and I'm coloring, then you should be able to see because it's unmasking it.
Okay.
So that was probably, those are the biggest things that people make mistakes on. They're not clicked on the mask and they're not clicked on the layer that they want to be on.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome. So
Danielle for sending all that info.
Oh, I figured that might be helpful because I wanted to start doing that, but like you can save your folders on your desktop as like icons or specific images.
that's
So I
why
figured,
we have,
I'm like, oh,
did you see ours is a U-Haul? Because it's our storage where we store everything. Like that's not what the like it's supposed to look like, but that's what we use it. Because then you see it right away too, and you know what it is.
I'm gonna try working on it later tonight, but it's like there was like some masking issues I had with like the poster because I was trying to do I forgot the name of it. What's that brand that like has like that red with the white text?
Oh, Supreme.
Yeah, but like Supreme that's based off of what style of art? Like I feel like that's specific that like it was one of the four choices that you had.
It's Bauhaus, postmodernism. It's one of those probably. I'm doubting.
Yeah, I forgot which of the two,
illuminated
but it was
manuscript.
like I was having like some issues with like because the colors were similar.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it wasn't exact, and it's like it was fine enough to like turn in. So I stopped working on it, but like I'll probably I'm gonna look up later after some cough syrup.
Yeah, your poor boy.
It's asthma. Like it's like I've taken like 2 COVID tests to be sure, and like I did the like other tests, and I'm like, okay, the flu tests are negative, everything's negative, so it's like at least I know it's just asthma. But I'm just like, oh gosh, that means that like I have no clue how long this is gonna last.
Yeah, that's almost worse. Yay, it's asthma. I just have to live like this. But yeah, just let me know. You have 2 weeks to catch up, both of you, and I'm available if you have questions. And even if, like I know it's hard to catch like in real time. If you email me, I can send you videos back if it's easier. So
yeah, I wasn't sure about like what time frame you actually like didn't mind us contacting you because I didn't want to like hit you up on the weekend or whatever.
Even if it's just a link that you think is similar to that I'll address. That's like
yeah, I can also do that.
Like,
it's find a similar
like
video.
Way too long searching for something, and I'm like, if you know exactly what it is, like.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people all the time. And I know like the whole like, well, you gotta look it up yourself, but it's like, okay, I don't know how many times I've been like, I don't even know what to search. And then I think, okay, what's happening? What program am I in? And I can search and I can figure it out. But it's hard when you're starting. So I can either send you a link or something. So, and I probably won't reply on the weekend, but you can email me anytime. I'm not going to look at the time and be like, ugh, how dare they?
Well, that's why I wanted to bring up to Ashley the Discord, because I know some people were like commenting and responding in there.
Yeah, so Discord is faster.
Yeah, were
Yeah.
you already on there, Danielle?
Well, it's like I have it for a few classes, and I don't know if you're taking any of Warner's, but his is like, that's pretty much how he does his class. He doesn't do it through Zoom. He just does it through like Discord, like
Oh,
voice text with like chats and stuff. But
I feel like that's a good way to utilize assistance. I didn't really realize this class had one, so
Yeah.
I guess I feel like those little questions might be easy to bounce off each other if someone knows it. Then it's like,
yeah.
send you an email every 5 seconds.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
like for
so
me, it was
use
like, it was
Discord
just like
too.
forgetting like filing stuff. So it's like, oh, I don't need to ask people this, because it's just like, I'm like, I know how to work the program, but I forgot how to like manage like stuff in there. But I'm like, I'm like, you guys are in IT, so I didn't want to bother. But it's like, I just need to like put that out there. Like,
Well, thank
Bye.
you, Professor.
welcome.
You have a good rest of your week.
Yeah, you too. Good
Appreciate
luck
it.
and
Head out
contact
to
me
you.
if you need help.
Thank you so much.
all right,
Bye.
Ow! Shit.
I have cats too.
This is her way of showing love. I'm always like, could you go a little bit lighter? Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.